G'day, legends, and welcome to the Pot Noodle. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight is Shane. How you going, Shane?
Yeah, good mate, good. Been a pretty hectic weekend, filled with football and comedy shows. We've got the International Comedy Festival down here at the moment, so got out to a few gigs over the weekend, and also got along to the Melbourne Derby. So got to see Victory get the win over City, and was kind of hoping for double Derby delight last night, but we didn't quite get there. But not the worst result in the world.
Geez, Shane, you've been cracking on a bit this weekend, so there you go. Nah, it's like a busy thing. Yeah, the comedy festival was great, but yeah, we've had to say that everyone just to wind up the guys from our Thursday pod. So yeah, good fun. So yeah, just got a bit to talk about on the pod tonight. Obviously, yeah, we've tried to keep it as the time the show's going out as like as simple as possible in terms of we've just finished daylight savings over here, so we're trying to keep things as a normal time for everyone. So hopefully we haven't butchered it too much. But yeah, we had a bit of a interesting. I think interesting is probably the nicest way I can sum it up for the derby. So we've got quite a bit to get through. So we'll get straight into it, Shane.
Yep, sounds
So
good.
Celtic 3, Rangers 3. My score prediction last Monday was 3-2. And the penalty I said would be in the 61st minute. Shane, I can't remember what you said your score prediction was. I think you said 2-1.
No, I said we'd keep a clean sheet.
I'll keep a clean sheet. And you said the penalty, but then you also said when I asked about the penalty, you said it would be in the 31st minute,
I
and it was
did.
in the 33rd. So nearest the pin on the golf course, you would win.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think we expected it to be in our favour. I thought when I looked at the time when it was given, I thought I'm actually quite close here. Had no intention of calling it for us though.
Yeah, exactly. So I was looking at the game and going into it and saw the starting lineups, and I was like, oh, this is pretty much a full strength team in my opinion. You got like the same team started against Livy, so it was Hart, Johnston, Carter, Vickers, Scales, Taylor, Awada, O'Reilly, Hatade in the middle, Kun Maeda and Kyogo up front. And then you look at the bench and Kelly dropped out, McGregor came in. That was pretty much the only change that I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, Yang was back from suspension as well. Or was he back for the Livy game? I think he was still out then.
I'm pretty sure he's still out for the Livy game.
Yeah, so those two have came back into the squad. So you're looking at it going, okay, we've got a lot of guys off the bench who can impact the game. We've got good quality starting lineup there. Here we go. And suddenly, this happened. Boom, I've got this. Kapow, a minute in. Actually, 23 seconds. So, Maeda with some absolute, I don't know how to describe it, Shane. Is it arsiness? Is it skill? I think if he didn't press as hard as he did, it never would have happened. But it couldn't have happened. Came off on the deflection off a better idiot in terms of coming off Tavernier. But by the end of the game, both captains had deflected a goal into the opposition net. So, yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that game. So when Chris Sutton said on commentary, this game is mental, as soon as that happened, I wrote that in my notes, podcast episode name, and I wrote it down while the game was still going because it summed it up perfect. I couldn't make any sense of the bloody thing. So, yeah, well, great early start there. And then you just roll on into it with yeah, just got into the game with the press and everything. But what I'll do, Shane, before we go have a little bit of a chat about the first half, I've got a bunch of talking points that I've written down as well. I'm just going to bring up some of these comments because it's getting a bit fired up already, and they've got plenty of comments, and it's not even 5 minutes in. So happy days. So Patrick McLaughlin says, "Morning. Must admit I'm frustrated at losing the 3 points yesterday. We should be able to see 2-0 leads out, but at least it's in our own hands." And then Anaheim Ducks across the pond was, if you offered me a draw before the game, I would have snapped it up, no bother. But that first half performance was enough to bury them if we took our chances. All in all in our hands, hail, hail. 100%. Those two comments sum it up for me. Look, I feel like I've got the whole yin and yang thing going on, and not our Yang who absolutely fluffed it in the second half, but like I feel like if you said it was going to be a draw at Ibrox, and then it's still in our hands to play for before the game, I would have been like, "Yep, cool. I could settle for that." But then the way we played in that first half, Shane, I feel like coming out of that game, this feels like I sat there after the game for about half an hour going, "This feels like a loss."
Mm.
Felt like we lost the game, even though we didn't. And then they're celebrating, doing laps and all sorts of shit around their stadium like they've won the comp. So we'll talk about that a little later on. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I'm gonna bring up Patrick's comment here as well. Worst thing is he stuck a 3-3 bet on during the week. You got some cash there, so yeah, what are you gonna do? Gave the cash to your missus. Come on, mate. You should have been clever with it. What you do, you get that extra cash, and then instead of just giving it to your missus, just go buy yourself a Celtic top, buy something for her. Hunky dory, you're both getting the win. She gets the money that you make off us conceding goals. You get the money off of scoring goals. Happy days.
I don't want to throw anything around here, but this sounds like someone talking from experience.
If she's tuning in, never. Yeah. So, yeah, we'll just talk about. Let's bring up here. So we've got RL77, Fabio Diver. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Andrew Galea, robbed. Beaton's a cheat. First half performance was fantastic, and we'll dive in on that in a moment. Andrew was like, made it happen. Made meant it. Maheshi, 2-0 halftime, but the data saying trouble ahead for Celtic. Rangers mids had control and winning territory, especially on the left with Silva. Trend continues second half. I think the worst part of the game for us, Mahesh, was the halftime happened when it did. That's just my opinion on it in the most simple way possible. Patrick saying our defence can't handle a sustained period of pressure. And Jared saying, let's crack on. So, Shane, do you want to give us your thoughts and rundown of the first half?
Well, it was the perfect start, really, when you think about it, and going to a very hostile environment. No away fans, crowds completely on your back from the first whistle, if not earlier. And you want to take them out of the equation. You want to get on the ball. You want to do something that's going to keep them quieting down. And couldn't have planned any better. I don't even think that the tifo they'd brought out had been even folded up and put away before Maeda had knocked it in. And it was definitely the best way to start. And from that point forward, I mean, obviously, maybe it's a little bit fortuitous. I can see a lot of people in the comments saying Maeda meant it. I'm not sure I'd go that far personally, but I would go to the extent and say that's exactly what he brings, and that's exactly why I like putting him out on the left when we're playing them, and they've got Tav out at right back. That's exactly what he brings. He puts Tav under pressure. He doesn't just pin him in his own half anymore. He puts him under that kind of pressure where he feels like he just can't even take a touch anymore, and that's that kind of energy that Maeda brings. So I don't think I'd go as far in saying as he meant it, but I'm not sure anybody else could have caused that. So, doff of the hat to Dyson.
One other player, Shane, in our team, and the only other one would have been Kyogo because of his speed as well.
Yeah,
That's about it. The only two
fair call.
guys are the speed merchants that we've got.
And the nous to know exactly, how to actually close him down and which side to be on and when to stick the foot out as well, when to take that chance. So not just the energy and the speed, but also the awareness of what to do. But I thought it was an excellent start, and I thought we continued on from there. We looked fantastic. That first half was as good as we've played all season. We were quick. We were moving the ball well. We were shifting it well. We weren't dilly-dallying in possession. I felt like we were constantly keeping them on the back foot.
Scales.
When that we'll get to that. Apart from Scales, when they had the ball, we were putting them under so much pressure, and they were faltering, and they looked completely disjointed. They looked all at sea at times. The crowd was getting on their back. It's exactly what we've seen in the past. You could hear the rumbling, you could hear the boos, the nervous energy was building, and we seemed to be thriving off it. I wouldn't say it was. I mean, it was a good first half and definitely one of the better halves we've played. I wouldn't say it was perfect, though. I think there were definitely some warning signs there. I think Mahesh's comment earlier is definitely spot on. There was some moments where, particularly at the back and maybe in midfield, there was a lot of space, which I was worried was going to get exploited. but they really weren't. They didn't look at the races at all, and I felt like we were able to really dominate them. And 2-0 was a good reflection, I think, of our first half dominance. I can't believe we got a penalty at Ibrox. I can't believe they gave a handball against Goldson. I'm sure we want to break that down into more detail later, so I won't go into too much on it at the moment. But it was still surprising nonetheless. But look, 2-0 was look. We played very well. We really did, and I thought, and I give a lot of credit to Brendan. Right, so I've been one of Brendan's, or maybe a bit of a staunch critic of Brendan at times during this season, but there's no doubt he is able to get the team up and ready for these kind of matches. And the way that we came out and played in that first half, I know there might have been traits of seasons gone by with the way we shifted the ball and our momentum of movement, but just how fired up we were and the energy we had, I feel like Brendan had us all ready to go. So I'll give him a lot of credit for that first half performance and the way that the boys were ready to, and the way they came out. 2-0 was definitely, as I said, a good reflection on our first half dominance. But probably the biggest part of that first half was the double save. They only had 2 chances for that first half, 2 shots on goal.
I had to bring that up because that was the only thing on my list of dot points, Shane, that I had that you hadn't brought up.
See, I tend to ramble so long that I inadvertently go over points that you've got. So this is what happens. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't take notes, so a lot of this is from muscle memory. So I might back away and let you talk about that. But it was a really important end to the first half.
Yeah, so I'm just adjusting something here, but what we had was, and the notes, by the way, nothing sus. But yeah, what I had on my notes, yeah, I said Connor Goldson concedes a penalty for handball. WTF? That was one of the key things. That was one of my key notes. And why I changed it, the WTF, is it concedes penalty. My phone, when I wrote it, auto corrected it. Connor Goldson's penalty. So it automatically just, my phone, because of what goes on and what we talk in our group chat, thought he got the penalty. I'm like, that's not right. Bloody iPhones, what are you doing? Throw it against the wall. That's what I was fixing. I'm like, well, even my phone thinks I'm talking shit on this bloody play on this note here. So yeah, for me, there was a few things like we all say made his goal early on. We said that, like, the press for me was amazing, and the speed of our play, the speed of our press. Yeah, there was gaps in the middle, Shane, as you mentioned. But what I found, Andrew's on at you, Shane.
Yeah, that's okay, Andrew. It's a very fair comment.
We're all watching the same game, so fair enough. But the thing for me, like, the thing with our press that I really liked was, okay, there was space in the midfield, but it was where we wanted to leave it. Like, there was space there, but if they were to get to the ball there, they either had to hit a long diagonal ball over the top, which Johnston was able to cover, or Taylor was able to cover, or they had to go backwards to a centre back and back into their defensive midfielder towards Lundstrom. And by that point, the speed we had up there with Kun, with Maeda, with Kyogo, we were able to adjust and hold our position and hold our shape again. So we were pressing, and then we were counter pressing on that. Whichever pass they took, we were able to adjust and cover it. So tactically, the press was amazing, and the commentators even said that there's space in behind if they can get to it, but they haven't been able to get to it. I can't remember who the commentator was that said that. I think it may have actually been, was it Ali McCoist who said it? That was one of the only things that actually made sense that came out of his mouth the whole game. So,
Was McCoist in commentary or was it Kenny Miller? Because I thought Miller was in commentary.
whichever one of those idiots it was, I think it was McCoist. But yeah, whichever one it was, one of them said it. So yeah, as Andrew's saying here, our press is unrelenting. As Jared's saying here, man it or not, he put himself in the position to get it, talking about Maeda's goal. RL77, the first half was a perfect example of Maeda chaos ball. And with the speed that we were moving in the press and everything, it was kind of like a combination of, it was more structure, but the press in certain parts, like when it was wide and the way we were pressing was kind of like what we saw the last couple of seasons. But then the counter press, when they did make their pass back to the centre back or diagonal, that was clearly a Brendan tactic, the way he'd coached it into the team to keep your shape but adjust everyone adjusts at the same time, at the same speed. So you can see, like, last year, if those ball went over the top, we were just like, nearest to go get him, nearest go get it and close it down straight away. That looked a lot more structured to me. So you could see a bit of work there had gone into it. So yeah, it was on Brendan in terms of the first half, but yeah, I was just impressed. Now, RL77, he's saying, mate, I definitely meant it. It's like you guys haven't seen Over the Hedge when the squirrel with ADHD drinks a Red Bull and the world slows down around him. Matrix level maneuvers.
Whenever I see that kind of comment, I think of the episode of Futurama where spends the money on 100 cups of coffee, and when he drinks, he's all shaky and jittery, and he drinks 100 cup of coffee, the world freezes, and he's just in control, and everything's like slow motion. So I definitely get what you're saying. I'm on board with that theory completely.
100%. Yeah, and then so I'll just go through the rest of my notes that I had for us, Shane. And so I had Goldson concedes a penalty for handball. It's like the elbow's out. It was like, how you're looking at the way he did it, and you're like, how often does he jump in abnormally like that, thinking, oh, I can get away with it. No one will see it because it's beneath everything. What he didn't realize, his elbow then also made Scales handball, so they had to go and review it. So yeah, it was a bit of an interesting one. So yeah, O'Reilly stepped up, and I was looking, going, okay. When he hit, I was like, was that a Panenka or was that just a chip? Oh, it's just the most leisurely chipped penalty in super slow mo ever. Utlander dived. He was on the ground before the ball even crossed the line. That's how slow it was moving. It was great. I loved it. We're talking about half time. They got booed off, and after the penalty, we had plenty more chances created. There was a cross from Kun in to O'Reilly. I think it was for a header that we missed. I don't know if that was before the penalty or after. There was Maeda came through and had one where he came back onto his right foot, took a shot, and he went a bit too central instead of just putting it in the corner into the side netting. And then there was like another one with Kyogo. So all up, I thought we could have easily, if we took even half the chances we created in the first half, we were up 2-0. We could have been up 5 at halftime. And then we could have been not up 5. We could have scored 5 by halftime. And then Joe Hart with that double save, as you're saying there, Shane, as well. Like, that was just, he'd done nothing all half. It was like he'd carried on from the week before where he's playing, Connect 4 and sitting on the crossbar and just doing nothing, sitting in his deck chair, and then suddenly go, save, like that. So it was just great quality from him.
It
So
was it was massive. Like, and you think of going in at halftime, imagine if they actually score one. They didn't deserve a goal that half. I'll be honest, their performance didn't warrant it. It would have been a complete sucker punch if they'd gone in at halftime with a goal on the board. So it was really important, and yeah, it was massive. It was only 2 shots on goal for the half. Conversely, we had 11 shots in that first half, 5 on target. So obviously Butland pulled off a few decent saves, credit to him. But yeah, we could have very easily been out of sight after halftime, or at halftime, I should say.
yep, 100%. Just going to bring this up. Hail, Paul. Thanks for tuning in. You're a regular, so I haven't seen you on here for a little while, so I just wanted to give you a shout out. Patrick McLaughlin, that's 2-2 made, 3-3 made. We've had an Ibrox 4-4 it made next time. Might check the odds on that. Could do with, get a couple of dollars would be handy. Jared saying Goldson had a wedding the night before and was still doing the chicken dance. That is the only logical explanation to what having his elbow in that way, other than, he thinks he's some sort of UFC fighter trying to like elbow someone, knock him out.
It was still interesting watching, them go to VAR and check it, because it seemed clear as day, and I'm just like,
Their crowd.
They can't let this go. They have to give this as a penalty. They can't ignore it. Surely.
As was said here by Andrew early on, the world was watching Beaton. And we
That's
sure
true.
were from this side of the world. So yeah, O'Reilly had the Zen type penalty. Oi, lads. G'day, Franny, good to see you on here. And Patrick saying, mate, I should have buried his chance. Yeah, as well as he played in the first half, yeah, he should have done that. So what we'll do is going to say it for you, Jared. We'll crack on to the second half talk, okay? And yeah, so I'll go through my dot points this time, Shane.
I was about to say, if you go first, then I probably won't steal anything from you.
I'll rattle through a bit, and then you just jump in off the back of. I've got them in the order that they tended to happen in, so we can go this talking point, this, and then go through it. So,
So you're not like
well,
me going back and forth and up and down kind of thing.
so early on in the second half, Fabio died. Got fouled a few times, got told to get up, and then he decides, oh yeah, I'm in the box, and I'm gonna just go dive onto the floor rather than chase down a ball that Johnston, I think it was, had got his foot to and knocked away from him. So loved seeing Beaton give him the yellow card. VAR interfered is what my note says. VAR interfered and it was changed and penalty was given. Absolute BS call that switched the momentum of the game. Tav Penn scores the goal. So that was my note there. So for me, what gave me the shits about it, right? That whole situation was you watch the full replay. He gets the ball, he like brings it across in front of himself to his left, going towards the byline. And as he does that, Johnson sticks, and you get to watch it. Johnson sticks his foot out, studs hit the ball away, further away from him from where he was hitting it. And then he follows through and he's going down, he's starting to fall down before there's even contact to his knee or his thigh or whatever. And then he just crumples like into a heap. Now, the thing that pissed me off was you could see that. But then when you look at what the VAR was showing the ref, they only showed from after the Johnson had already touched the ball. So it was the ball's over there. Look where the contact is on the follow through. So rather than showing the whole play from start to finish, like if you look at it and go, okay, he touched the ball, he followed through, the guy came into his leg and went down. It's not a pen every day of the week, but what they showed Beaton, that's where we complained a couple of weeks ago, and only at the Hearts game, only showing the ref on the field the still shots of Yang's high boot. To me, it's the exact same thing. Why give him that bit and not show him, that the ball was played away? Because even if there was contact, if he kept his feet, chose not to dive and keeps his feet, he can get to that ball, take a couple of steps, get to the ball, and just play on. So, as Patrick's saying in the comments, Beaton's 3 feet away from it. Surely he doesn't need VAR if he's 3 feet away. And as Andrew's saying, when AJ kicks the ball away, that's the end of the action. The dive came later. Exactly. So I just think it's an absolute crock of shit of a penalty, and the yellow card should have stood. But Shane, what do you think of that?
So when I saw it in real time and even on the VAR replay, I couldn't, for some reason, I missed the nick on the ball when it first happened. Like I just didn't catch that. I sort of saw him fall over and thought, well, he's dived again. And then when I was watching, obviously the replay that was through to VAR, it was very much focused on the actual contact from AJ on Silva, and it wasn't really focusing on the lead up to that, where you can clearly see AJ nick the ball away. And so I found that they were kind of focusing on that, and this ties into your point. They weren't looking at the context of the situation. They would just really kind of highlight, was there contact? Did he clip him? As opposed to, well, did he clip the ball? Was he already falling down? So it took me a while before I actually saw the full footage, and I thought, oh, hang on, he's nicked the ball. He's knocked the ball away, and then he's effectively, he's on his way down, and then there's contact. It's an interesting one for me, and it's something I've talked about before on this. In the comments section already mentioned it. John Beaton's only a couple of feet away. He's got a clear view of it. He sees it. He says, "Nope, that's a dive. I'm giving you a card for simulation."
What's clear and obvious?
Exactly. This is exactly the point I'm trying to make. Where is the clear and obvious error? He's looking at that. VAR says, I think you've missed something. He looks at it and you go, well, okay, there's contact. Maybe I could understand if he gave the penalty initially that maybe he wouldn't overturn it if he saw it on VAR. But conversely, you didn't. You were happy with that being a tackle and then a dive. What on earth on that footage is a clear and obvious error that makes you overturn it? So I thought that was really frustrating. And another example of where VAR is overstepping its remit. You remember, it's got to be for clear and obvious errors. I don't really think a ref 3 feet away looking clearly at that and already taking action on it, somehow he's missed something clear and obvious. So I think it's overstepped its mark once again.
2 words for you, Shane. Nick Walsh. There you go. No, I'm just gonna bring up some comments here. So RL77, Fabio Diver's second dive in the box in the game. Patrick saying, I reckon Beaton gives the penalty without the BR controversy at Tynecastle. So he would have given it straight away instead of the dive. Michael McDonald saying Beaton was always going to give them the advantage. We should have players to deal with it, but we didn't spend.
Very cool.
Patrick saying he's making himself look impartial there, Beaton. Yellow carding Silver was probably a pre-planned stunt should the situation arise. He's not that clever, Patrick. That's the problem.
He honestly, I mean, I don't know if you want to get into Fabio Silva now, but honestly, he was an
Oh, that
embarrassment.
was going to be later. So, but
All right, well, we'll leave that for later. I'll save my energy.
and then we've got so he goes down for the penalty. Does he get up going, trying to claim the penalty?
No.
The Silva?
No, he gets up basically disputing the yellow card from my recollection.
Exactly. So that's the first thing. The second thing, as Kevin's saying, just need to look at the Sevconians behind the goal. Not one was shouting for a pen. Also, not one of his teammates was shouting for a pen or the bench when you see the wide shot of it. So not a single member of their coaching staff, the playing group, their fans were calling for a penalty. One person saw that and said, that should be a penalty, not a dive. And as I said, his name's Nick Walsh. I'll name him. What are they going to do to me over here?
Oh, you're gonna get a letter or an email from the SFA board. Actually, you'll get a fax.
Yeah, to the local service station because no one has faxes these days. Yeah, and then we had Andrew saying looking for any opportunity to cheat, and then he's also gone. It's not like AJ followed through in the tackle. Did he get dived into his leg? Correct. And then he was trying to grab the ball off Jay Hart. And then AJ's gets a touch on the ball. It's not even close to a pen. And Tony McCann saying if AJ isn't falling over and stands straight up and Silver deliberately runs into his body and he dives, he's 100% booked by a good ref. No difference running into a trailing foot deliberately. And then we weren't touting it for our pen either. Bias refs can't hide now. Yep. So they got to call it as is. But yeah, so we had that shocking. And then off the back of that penalty, they come and score basically a minute straight after the penalty, if that. And it was ruled out by VAR for the foul on Awada. The best part on that one was seeing the goal scored, and Beaton doesn't even point to the circle. He just runs straight to the VAR booth over there to have a look at it. So he knew he'd cooked it and he needed another look at it. So was that clear and obvious, Shane?
They made a rod for their own back. You couldn't give the pen on what you saw and then ignore the Awada situation. Simple as that. It was much more contact for Awada. That was a clear foul on Awada. That was a clear and obvious error. The one that Silver benefited from wasn't. But because of the fact that they'd gone to VAR for the previous one and overruled it, like I said, made a rod for their own back. There's no way they could have ignored the Awada one. They had to overrule that based on the precedent they'd set only a couple of minutes earlier. So, yeah, I don't know if it would have been overturned had the events a couple minutes ago prior not happened. But yeah, on evidence, it was clear and obvious. That was a clear foul.
So a couple of comments here was Andrew saying Cheat and Beaton should have blown for the foul on Nawada. The thing is, if they didn't score and it just went out for a goal kick, would he have gone to have a look at it? No.
No.
So he would have been disadvantaged because we have the ball 70 meters down the field. So that's the thing that I find frustrating as well about it all. But it's just such an obvious call. Like, what's he looking for? There's no advantage there. We got fouled. They got the ball. Blow your whistle.
He's only a couple feet away again. He's literally got a perfect view of it.
I've got a spare pair of glasses here if you need them, John Beaton. I can send them over to you. They might help you. Shocking. Yeah,
Yep.
so, the next thing I wanted to talk about was how yellow card happy Beaton was in terms of, like, how many fouls they had in the first half. I think it was, like, 6 or something, and I'm not I think it worked out as, like, 23 to 10 or something, the foul count, but then they would foul us, and it was like, okay, easy summary. Kun, when he copped the yellow, it was here, and here, yellow. None of those other fouls before that were Kun.
Yeah, exactly.
So he got punished for his teammates. Carter Vickers had a couple of those. He got punished for that. But then they were repeat fouling all over the place and not even a card. They didn't get a single card in the game. We had, like, I think the fouls, as I said, I think it was 23 to 10 for the game.
Yep.
I'm just getting the stats up here,
And
and
it
we had
was
4 yellows.
yep, and they didn't get a single one.
Yep. So looking at that, I'm like, I said in our group chat, it was going to be one of those games where I was more worried about him sending one of our guys off than, the penalty or anything else being called, going to VAR. I was more worried how quick he was on the trigger, that he was, like, just itching to send someone off. But then everyone was watching him, so yeah, it was a bit of a interesting one.
Tried his best though, and I tell you what, the Rangers players tried their best too at times. I know we'll touch on Silver later, but he did he was absolutely trying to get Johnston sent off. And then when Johnston was given, when they overruled him for the penalty, then you had Tav, and I can't remember who the other player was, basically getting John's face
Saying,
and
"Come
say,
on,
"We,
give me another
you got
tab."
to send him off." Then they were really angling to get us sent down to 10 men. They were trying every trick in the book. They really were. Yeah.
Dirty, disgusting Huns. I'll stop there. Yeah, so it was funny because at one point we were up 2-1, and I think it was about 20 minutes to go, and I said as a joke in the group chat, I'm like, "Oh, if they're still down a goal coming up to and they're chasing a goal going to stoppage time, they're gonna give 8 or 9 minutes here." I said that as a joke, and then what happens? They say with, like, a minute to go, "Oh, it's gonna be 8 minutes stoppage time," and I was just like, called it in our group chat. It's like, that's gonna be the flukiest called it ever, but 8 minutes of stoppage time added. Another joke. They spoke to some other ref that they spoke to who reviewed it. He goes, "I would add 4.5 minutes." They still would have scored. Matondo still would have scored because it was like 93rd minute. So, yeah, I think the implosion late in the second half that made the game absolute chaos all started when Rogers made a few subs that were ineffective. So Kun comes off, Yang comes on, and Kelmac comes on for Hatade. Now Hatade, second game back from injury. Kelmac's first game back from injury. You're gonna need to rotate Hatade off, but I'll probably, after, with 2020 hindsight now, I'd be like, should have been Bernardo coming on. What do you reckon, Shane?
Yeah, 2020 hindsight, exactly the same. I thought at the time they were the right moves. I particularly liked the move of Calmac coming on. At that point in the game, we were really lacking composure, and it was a bit of a trait that continued throughout the second half. We really struggled to get our foot on the ball. We struggled to string a couple of passes together. We really couldn't get any control, particularly after they got that penalty. And I thought the move of Calmac coming on was going to be really important in arresting that. You get someone on who's been in this cauldron before, who's experienced this kind of moment. His leadership and his ability is going to be vital. Unfortunately, it didn't play out that way. I thought it was the right move. He looked underdone, and unfortunately, it was crucial to them to their equaliser.
Yeah, we'll
But yeah,
touch on in a second, but yeah, I thought, honestly, with Calmac there, I thought if it was any other game, he wouldn't have even been on the bench. He would have been given another week off.
yeah. Look, I think that's fair too. But then, like I said, I'd back in the decision. That's why I didn't look at too, I guess, harshly on Brendan's decisions to bring players on. I thought they were the right moves. It's just as you said, in hindsight, they weren't. Yang for Kun was the right move. Yang was in great form up until he got his red card. Kun wasn't effective in the second half, like for like replacement. He just looked all at sea, unfortunately, but it was the right move.
Who looked all at sea? Sorry.
Yang.
Yeah. I said last week that this was a sort of game where I thought if Kelmack's fit, you bring him off the bench like we did. So I thought that was the right move. But I also said this was a sort of game where you're hanging out for a James Forrest appearance to come in, the veteran know-how on that right wing, and just he's been there, done that, got the medals to show it. And that's where I thought when I saw Yang coming on, I'm like, okay, I'd be hoping Jamesy would be coming on for this instead of Yang. Not because I don't rate Yang, but because I thought in that situation with that stakes, with no fans in there and everything, all the cards dealt how they were at that moment in time, I thought that's the one where you want the experience on the pitch. I know Yang's not going to get that experience until he's done what he just did yet last night, which was make that appearance and play in that game and learn. But yeah, I thought it should have been Jamesy. And Andrew agrees with me here.
Yeah, I again 2020 hindsight, right? You got to have your wits about you. It's a tough fixture. It's an unusual fixture. It's an absolute cauldron of an environment, and you just need to be switched on. And particularly at that point where Yang comes on, he's got a couple of half chances, which he just if he's more ready, if I can lack for want of a better term, if he's more ready, or we've got a different player there, they can probably make something of that. Instead he lets it run or he misses it. And then obviously defensively for their third goal, a more switched on players not showing him inside like that. So it's a hard lesson to learn. I'd like to take a really positive angle and say he'll be much better for this experience. But yeah, at that time we needed someone with a bit more nous.
Yeah, so I had the subs there, and then I was like, so leading to their equaliser, make it 2-2. Kelmack gives the ball away softly in the defensive midfield area. Seema gets ball comes back to him. Seema scores with a massive deflection off Kelmack, so he gets the shot in. Everything was covered off Kelmack into the corner. So yeah, that was an unfortunate deflection, but we should have been better and not give the ball away. Speaking about, I was going to go back to this here. So Patrick's saying, should Bernardo have come on at halftime for Kun with a midfield four? Shouldn't have come on for Kun. Like, I thought Kun was still going strong when he came off. Thought he maybe had 5-10 more minutes left in him, but he was just getting better the longer the game went. For me, I don't think we should have gone on midfield four because I think the change would have been we needed two guys sitting because what we did in the second half wasn't we weren't pressing as hard. It's like at halftime we changed. I thought, okay, we're 2-0 up. Let's just hold that. And it seemed like there was that little change in the approach to how we played the game rather than being the aggressors going, all right, we're up 2-0. Let's get a third. Let's get a fourth and absolutely put them lambs to the slaughter here. It was like, oh, yeah, we're 2-0 up. Let's just hold it. So I don't think that would have been the one here. Jared saying Kun shouldn't have been taken off. Was getting better and better. Andrew's saying we've kept Forrest for his big game experience. Patrick saying we've got a lot of work to do this summer. Patrick saying Taylor didn't enjoy Simmer, did he? Nope. And that's something we're about to touch on as well. So, yeah, like that equaliser for them was just an unfortunate deflection. And then we score like a minute later with Bernardo getting the ball on the left, driving run, gets it to Ida. Ida with some class footwork just to get the ball, move it so quickly, get everything settled, and just smash that ball in. Good quality finish there. Good footwork for the big man. Was happy to see that. Shane, what do you think of that goal?
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. It was our best passage to play for the whole half, really, to be honest. We'd really struggled with any kind of control or composure after half time. Look, Matondo's was the pick of the goals of the 6-goal score, but Adam Eaters on any other day, that would be probably the best goal. That was a wonderful strike from a big man. Like, really, he's leathered that, and that's a cracking finish. And Butland just couldn't get to it. It's a tremendous strike, and all quality to either. You go back to when we brought him on board. There was a lot of consternation and some concern about him bringing on board, and now he's been a very important player for us. I thought he was good when he came on, and when Brendan brought him on, he's just gone and scored a goal at Ibrox in front of 50,000 screaming Rangers fans, right? So the guy's got medal. He's been a very worthy summer, not purchase, but summer player that we've brought in.
Yeah, 100%. With you saying Matondo's goal, my notes here say Matondo scores a worldie to equalise in the 93rd minute. Yang was slack and didn't close down the middle of the park. Like, you have a look at it. Johnson was slightly out of position because he covered. There was another guy further out than Matondo, so Johnson had covered him. Then the ball came back, so Yang has to close down Matondo. He stays too far off him. He gives in the middle, and then once he's past him, he just like you see, he just turns his head and looks at him like, don't turn and watch. You're not in the stand as a spectator. You're right there. Go and get a body on him. Go and close him down. Try to get a deflection or whatever. But it was just 1 out of 10 sort of pick that out of the top corner. Doesn't matter who would have been in goals. You could have had Kepa or you could have had Allison or whatever, and I don't even think they would have stopped that one in that exact situation with the defenders in the exact position they were. I'll give credit where it's due. If that was one of our players, I'd be like screaming at how great we are and how great he is, and it's the second coming of Henrik Larsson and all this sort of shit. And yeah, it was a class goal for him. One thing I do want to say though is I'd like to congratulate Tav on his goal in the derby, because now he has equaled Alfredo Morales' all-time goal scorer's amount at Rangers, and he's a defender. Morales is an absolute hoofball merchant up front. So I'd just like to put that on the record. This is complete sarcasm coming out too, for those listening and can't see me on the screen like on YouTube. What a bunch of flogs. Whoever it was in the commentary bringing that stat up and just carrying on about it for the next 5 minutes. Yeah, we get it. So Shane, player focus time. Pick 2 players from our team and off you go.
This sounds like a setup because I'm just worried I'm going to pick someone that you've got on your list. So
okay, I'll tell you who's on my list if you want to know.
Okay. Yeah.
I have Liam Scales and I have Kun.
Okay, cool. I can work with that. I wanted to focus on Matt O'Reilly. I thought in that first half he was tremendous. I actually thought it was probably a toss up a little bit between Matt and Carter Vickers in terms of who our best on the park was, but I actually thought Matt was. I thought he had an excellent first half. I thought he was involved really heavily in everything for us going forward. I thought he was doing a lot of grunt work as well. He was dropping deep, trying to get on the ball and try and break up what they were trying to create. I thought his link-up play was really good. He gets a massive tick from me for scoring a penalty. Anyone that can score a penalty in the hoops gets a big bonus from me. But I thought he was excellent. I thought he ran himself into the absolute. I thought he ran himself into the ground. Sorry, I'll phrase that better. With his work ethic, and even in the second half, he was working really hard to try and drop deep, try and do whatever he could to get control of the game. And I thought he was excellent. So, we've talked recently about his form and how maybe it's dipped. I think over the last couple of weeks that started to take an upturn again, and we're starting to see the Matt of earlier this season. And that first half in particular, I thought he was tremendous. So credit to him.
I'll do one before you
do one. Yeah, you're right. We're working beautifully. This is working as a team.
So I said Liam Scales, and the reason I said that to you, Shane, was to misdirect you a little bit.
Oh.
I wanted to talk about the centre-back pairing in particular. So both CCV and Scales. I find that Scales, against pretty much every other team in the league, he gets away with what he does. But for me, yesterday, he drove me insane for 80 minutes. And this is what I wanted to touch on. Not his actual performance, but for 80 minutes, he drove me insane. But then the last 10 plus stoppage time, so what's that, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, I thought he was immense. And I thought he was you see CCV and the way he marshals a back line and gets his head in places it shouldn't be and all this sort of stuff. And I started to see those traits in that last 10, 15, 20 minutes there from Scales where was crosses were coming in and there was elbows, there was arms being thrown around, and he's just like getting his head to it and just smashing it away, clearing the ball, clearing the lines. Even though we conceded twice in that time, I actually thought he wasn't the cause for any of them, but he did cause me a hell of a lot of frustration before the 80-minute mark in that game. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of funny watching that. How you got Scales and it's like two different players there. Ridiculous.
Oh, his ability to defend and particularly last line and his clearing his lines, winning, getting his head on it, and everything is fantastic. But yeah, he's just a bit too stagnant in possession sometimes. And he wasn't alone on that. Maybe first half he was. This is what I was saying earlier. There was some warning signs, I think, in the first half of what may have been to come. I thought our back four at times looked a little bit disjointed, and particularly with Scales just sort of dallying a little bit. Second half, that felt more noticeable. That said, he wasn't alone either. So, but yeah, completely agree with what you're saying on him. He's as a last line defender, he's tremendous. Like he throws himself at everything. He never shirks an actual aerial duel or anything like that, and he's always looking to get the block in. But when he's actually got to get the ball and distribute it, then it's a bit. Sometimes he just hesitates a little bit too much.
Okay, so this was one of my other topics. I was bringing that up into this while we're talking about it. So my notes were: was Liam Scales too slow in possession during the game? He drove me insane with it while the game was being played. So for me, what I found frustrating wasn't his passing; it was where he would get the ball and where he would turn. Is he trying to turn and pass to Taylor? Is he trying to go here? He just seemed things we used to give Starfelt a hard time for because he was a right footer playing on the left side. Scales being the left footer playing on the left side, he just looked disjointed in that game in particular. And it's a game of fine margins. You don't have as much time. So realistically, that's what frustrated me for the first 80 minutes. It's like Azariel77 saying here, Scales looks good getting us out of situations he often gets us into. And Andrew saying Scales is fine when defending. So I'm not saying he's to blame, as I said earlier, he's not to blame for those last two equalisers from them. But for me, I just found him so frustrating to watch. And that's why I wanted to focus on him and the centre backs in general, because Carter Vickers is the man of consistency, but I felt that he got too caught up in the arm wrestle at times with Dessers. That then it did kind of throw off our back line. But I love seeing that. It was like a big meat battle, two big meaty men just like wrestling out there, having a bit of a thing. If anyone's a pro wrestling fan, there's a wrestler, Big E, and he goes, big men slapping man meat. They're just like slapping each other. It just reminded me of that. Anyway, I'm weird. Continue. Clip that. Go on, Chad. Your other one.
I think the other one I wanted to flag, just not so much on his performance, but more how the game changing affected him, was Kyogo. I thought in that first half he looked excellent, obviously with the way that we were controlling and pressing them, and his ability to press up and actually chase down and put those centre halves under pressure was everything I remember from Kyogo under Ange. That constant pressure, that playing off the shoulder a little bit, that was him to a T. And then when everything shifted in the second half and we were kind of pegged back a bit and we were playing long ball and kind of trying to get that outlet ball a fair bit more, that's when he became very isolated and wasn't able to get into the game. And he ended up going off around the 70th minute. That's when Ida came on, which I think was the right move. The only thing I would say to that is probably would have been worth doing that a bit earlier. I think for quite a while he was sort of out on his own, very isolated, not really having any impact. And considering how frequently we were sort of looking for that out ball, would have made sense to have Ida on a bit earlier. Pardon me. Now it's very tempting to keep him on there because if you get the break of something and it falls your way, and you're playing a long ball over the top, and you do have that player off the shoulder, you probably want Kyogo there, right? He's probably in on goal and he's able to finish. But yeah, I just felt like Brendan maybe hesitated on that move a little bit too long. I would have liked to have seen Eder on a bit earlier.
He who hesitates doesn't celebrate. There you go. Oh, I changed it. I made it nicer. But yeah, it was a bit of a weird one. I thought Eder did well. Kyogo, yeah, first half looked like the Kyogo of old. His movement was just causing all sorts of hassles for Suter in particular. How good was Suter's headband though, from his own teammate? I just wanted to throw that out there. Shit, he looked like the zombie. Perfect.
I don't even know if he changed shirts. It just looked like they'd washed the blood off the shirt. Like
Man,
normally they
have
get you a new
shirts.
shirt.
They probably don't have them.
It's leaning into the whole theory about the money stuff, isn't it? I mean, seriously, he came back out. I was like, that they've just washed that. It's damp there. There's no way that's a clean, fresh shirt.
Yep. They just chucked him in the shower half time. Yeah, so I said my other one for player focus was, who did I say it was again? Kun.
Yes.
Jared, on Thursday, I'm going to give you 5 minutes on the pod to just go to Kun Corner, your own little segment, and we can go make a cuppa or whatever, and you can just wax lyrical about Kun because we all know you got a mega man crush on him. But yeah, I thought overall it was his best game for us. He just keeps getting better and better every week, and like he'd go at a guy, take him outside, he'd come inside. He was different ways on how he was attacking the guys, and the defender never looked comfortable. And even when we dropped deep and tried to hit him on the counter and contain, I think that actually suited him a little bit more again because he's come from a club over in, was it Austria we got him from,
Yeah.
where they were a counter-attacking team. They weren't dominating the ball and pressing the way we do. So to come over here and learn that whole new system that we're doing, but then take elements of the way he played in his old one and, getting in there on the counter, giving us that option, but then also pressing and getting the ball back. I think that was his best, most complete performance so far, and I would love to see him next season with a full preseason into him and understanding exactly what we do and his teammates and the levels he's gonna go to because I'm just looking at him going, could he be our winger with the best hair? Gonna take that mantle from Paddy Roberts. I just wanted sad to see the comments fire up because I mentioned Paddy Roberts. So,
You've done it now.
next thing I'm going to drop Kieran Tierney in there and that we should re-sign him in the summer too. There you go. Comments are done. Just call it a day.
You're setting the cat amongst the pigeons.
It's clickbait. Gotta love it. Yeah. But anyway, that's the one to touch on with Kun. I thought I was giving him his props there. That was his best thing. Hatade also, I'll just touch on him. Like you can see what we've missed this season with him out. And 60 minutes of Hatade is better. And Jared, I'm warning you. Okay,
Yeah.
so what do we got here? Yeah, so I'll get rid of that. So Anaheim had this comment earlier on saying, I think we need to take some stock from the fact that we'll be fitter in the next game. Kalmack looked well off it, but he's the best footballer in the country and quality will always show in the end. 100%. Like, he looked completely off it in that game as well. But, yeah, make a very valid point there. Now we get to some fun rapid fire stuff, Shane. These are questions that were sent through in our group chat from Willie. So I'm going to ask you and you can answer it. So first question, why is Fabio Silva such a diving fanny?
Jeez, I don't. You said rapid fire, but that's going to take ages to unpack. He's an embarrassment. That was dead set embarrassing what he was doing. From the moment that he tried to get AJ sent off for that push, where he just went down clutching his face, rolling around as if he'd been belted. Embarrassing. And, Cantwell's found another diving partner. It's just embarrassing. I don't have any other word for it. And, I don't know how anyone can support a player putting on those theatrics. It was dead set ridiculous. And he should have been booked for his theatrics earlier than the one that ended up being rescinded. I don't really have anything kind to say about him at all.
Okay, I'll say it. If he was wearing our top, I would say I don't want to ever see him play for our club again. It is not the way to play. I cannot stand diving. And in the A League, I think it was in the Melbourne Derby on the weekend, a minute or two in, one of the victory players got booked for diving, a certain former Celtic player by Daniel Arzani. And when that happened, even though he's playing for my team that I go for victory, I was like, good. Can't stand diving. And the fact that their fan base are so happy for him to be taking the piss like that, it just shows that, they're a club without morals. He's a player without morals. It's a match made in, wherever they're from, out in the zombie wastelands. It's a match made in that area. So next one was Greg Taylor's deficiencies resurfacing in the second half, particularly against SEMA. Is this our biggest weakness heading into the end of season? So for me, when he had the big, solid guy winger running at him, he struggled. So what do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's been a little bit of a deficiency that we flagged on this pod for quite a while now, that our concern is that we tend to be getting targeted on that side mostly. Usually it's actually quite different when we play other teams. It's usually the long diagonals. They try to get the ball over the top. In this case, it was actually Siva actually running at him. And I thought first half he actually wasn't too bad, particularly early on. I thought he was quite solid. But particularly in that second half, as they were pressing, and, credit where it's due, they did change things at halftime. They came out with a lot more energy and they were looking to dictate terms, very different to how they'd set up in the first half. But they started to go down that side a bit more, and it definitely felt like they were targeting him. And Siva was just giving him a torrid time. So, yeah, I do have a few concerns. I don't think he's been as bad as he was earlier in the season. I think in the past few weeks, he's been a lot more solid. But it's a concern because of the fact we just don't have an obvious replacement in the event that he does underperform or, God forbid, gets injured.
So we've got some comments here. Seema targeted Taylor. Seema would usually play on the left. Jared saying he was against right in the first half. He's shit.
Oh, he was absolutely anonymous. I couldn't even remember him being on the pitch and touching the ball.
Yeah, and then Andrew saying Taylor does the job. They target him, but he generally stands up. All I'm going to say is what the second half, particularly the last 15, 20 minutes, the vibes I got from Seema targeting Taylor the way he was, going at him every time down, play after play after play after play, gave me the Abada going at Barisic vibes, but in reverse. Like, it was our defender and their attacker. That's what that gave me the reminder of. And yeah, it was odd to see. So Taylor's good enough for us, in my opinion, to get the job done this season and win the comp. But we need it. We have to upgrade that position in the off season. No if, buts, or maybes. We have to get a goalkeeper in because Joe Hart's retiring. We have to get another left back in. Starting quality European level one.
Goalkeeper Matty Ryan, make it happen.
Apparently, we're getting some Turkish bloke.
Just say I'm not in the know, but I know that Matt Ryan's at Alkmaar at the moment, and from what I understand, he's not going to be there. His contract ends in June, so he's only on the 1-year deal. So, as a free, we could do a lot worse.
Is he at Alkmaar? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was there. I thought that's where Cabbage Hands Barkis was.
no, and he was, as far as I was aware, he was actually
He was
doing a
at
good job at
Copenhagen.
Alkmaar. So,
Oh yeah, you're right. There you go. Oh, he
so
did great yesterday.
I haven't seen yesterday's result. I'm guessing he conceded a few.
Yeah, he played 90 minutes yesterday, had 2 saves in a 5-1 PSV win.
Well, I'm sure without Matt that they could have scored 10. So I'm saying get him involved, Celtic.
Yep, 100%. And then next thing here, was their result a well-earned point, or was it 2 points dropped based on our performance? What do you think, Shane?
I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. I know you said quick fire, but I really don't understand
You
that
don't do
definition.
quick fire, I know
I don't
that.
do quick fire. At full time last night, it was 2 points lost, and I still have a little bit of that feeling today. But whilst it was all fairly doom and gloom last night, after sleeping on it and looking at things pragmatically today, I'm much more comfortable with the point. And a lot of the comments, and yourself mentioned it earlier, if you'd said at the start of the game we were going to take a point, I would have been relatively happy with that. It's only on the basis of the fact that we were 2-0 up and bossing the game, and then went 3-2 up with a fair bit of stoppage time, all things considered, to go, but still, just on the cusp of stoppage time. To not take 3 points was frustrating. But at the same time, they didn't take 3 points, and they needed that 3 points more than us, in my opinion. And everything's still in our control. So I'm looking at this very much glass half full.
I'm looking at it going, they come off this, they got to draw. They've got a midweek game they've got to play, and they've got to play again on the weekend. So there's a chance that come the weekend we could be, 2 points behind? But if they draw that other game, guess what? We're suddenly even. So they got between their next 2 games, if they win one and draw one, and we win our game, it's all even with 6 games to go. So I'm not worried about that, because about them in particular, because even though it's frustrating, it's all there to play for. They've got to come to our place with none of their ferals in the stands to try and pick up a result. Yeah, good luck with that.
It's all in our control. We win every game from here. We win the league. There's not a lot of wriggle room, but what you want is something in your control where you can control it, and we've got that. So, and that was why the point was so important yesterday.
Yep. Just checking something for you, Patrick, in the comments there. He just asked what the goal difference is. So I'm just having a look now. So it's currently, we're 1 point ahead and we're 1 goal ahead. So that's where it's at. So we got plus 51, they got plus 50. The next one I had was, are we peaking at the right time? We looked every inch champions in that first half. For me, I'll answer it quickly. I think we are getting our players back, getting some fitness into them. Come the split, we got 2 more games till the split. We're going to be up and about, firing for those last 5 games. So what do you think, Shane?
No, I absolutely agree. You've hit the nail on the head. We're absolutely peaking at the right time. It's definitely affirmative.
This one here from Willie is his last question he sent through. What is Voldemort's moral victory all about? Absolute pish, I'll say it. And then my question I added off the back of that, what is the point of doing a celebration lap of honor after drawing a game? Again, it's absolute pish.
I'll give them a little bit of a pass, in a sense that they did come back from 2-0 down and obviously 3-2 with stoppage time to go. But they needed more than a point yesterday. And I thought the carry on at full time was well over the top for what the result actually was. And I don't think you would see us doing the same at Paradise in reverse. We'd be much more frustrated with the fact that we'd left 2 points, essentially out on the pitch instead of actually taking all 3. So I thought it was completely over the top. I thought all the talk of moral victories in both the press conferences just after the match, and then the proper press conference later on after full time, was ridiculous. For those who are into cricket, and there might not be many of you in the comments, I appreciate, but for those of you who are into the cricket, the English cricket team has been talking about moral victories for a very long time, particularly when they played Australia. For those who don't remember, Johnny Bairstow getting run out in very legal and all above board circumstances. England lost that game, but claimed a moral victory. And so when Clement came out and started running those absolutely stupid lines, I couldn't help but be drawn back to that frame of mind that the English cricket team has. It's complete pish. It's absolute garbage. They didn't win. They drew. They left 2 points out there. There's nothing to celebrate.
Anaheim Ducks across the pond is saying, that bald twat is so annoying to listen to. He's so deluded. Can't wait for the game at Paradise. E. O'Connor is saying, are they going to get an allocation? Not till next year. Next year it goes to 5% apparently. RRC7, cricket, the game of the English oppressor.
That's
Yeah,
why
pretty
you got to
much.
go for the Aussies.
Let the convicts beat them. There you go.
Yeah.
So my next one is, what's with the Hun fans throwing coins into the Celtic dugout, hitting John Kennedy numerous times? This must be addressed by the Club and Police Scotland. Reason I'm saying what's with them hitting John Kennedy? If anyone here has ever seen the NBA years ago, there's a thing called the Malice at the Palace, and it was the Indiana Pacers versus Detroit Pistons, and Ron Artest was laying on the score table because he'd just been in a bit of a scrap with Ben Wallace, the big center from Detroit. And then a Detroit fan decides to throw a cup of drink on him, and he's up and in the crowd, just full on choking people and belting into him. And then his teammates are in the crowd. And it was a full on riot. It was the best because it was my team who were the fans doing it, absolute ferals. But the reason I'm bringing that up is, why would you throw coins at John Kennedy? Because he would be the runner test in that situation. He's a big bloke. I could see him just losing that and going in there and just like absolutely wiping people out. It would be fucking hilarious. Also, they're throwing coins in the dugout. How many times could you have bought Rangers out of administration with what they were throwing at us into our bench? Thanks for the donation.
Oh, we're obviously talking in jest a bit, but
Fucking right, yeah.
on a more serious note, it's very concerning that that's able to happen, and is a repeat situation. And we remember from seasons gone by with the trainer, unfortunately, getting the bottle in the face, which left him scarred. It's ridiculous behaviour that needs to be called out and punished. And everyone's looking and going, well, a Celtic, why are Celtic not taking up the away allocation? Why aren't they, willing to bring fans? Well, this is exactly why. Our bench and our staff aren't even protected. Why on earth are we going to have 200 fans penned in a corner feel safe? It's terrible, and it's just an embarrassment. And that whoever was involved should be ashamed of themselves. You don't ever do that. That's ridiculous behaviour.
So off the back of that, if certain countries in Europe would be, so Anaheim Ducks are saying they actually should be deducted points for conduct of their fans this year. I'm against teams and the players losing points for their fans' conduct. I appreciate it. What I'm for, though, is what Patrick's saying here: close their main stand down for the next derby. That's the best. That's the only way these absolute wanks would actually learn anything. Would be, oh, next derby at your place, you got a 5% allocation. Celtic fans coming in, but your main stand shut down. So now you're going to have about the same amount of fans. Or a couple of your main stands are. That'd be right. RL77 is saying this. Hun's got a Hun. And E. O'Connor is saying, my God, we had our manager assaulted in Edinburgh.
Shameful situation that was.
It's Patrick saying, I'm all for stand closures rather than points deducted. Yeah. I think that's the fairest way. Because, yeah, it's not the players out there telling their fans to throw shit at our bench or glass bottles onto the pitch that they have to play on at a goalkeeper like a few years ago. Like, let's be honest. As much as I couldn't stand him, do you think Morelos would have liked running into that box with broken glass in it, trying to dive and win penalties in front of Joe Hart? I'm just throwing stuff out there like that. Like, he's a dumbass, but
I guess to play devil's advocate, though, if actually punish, I understand what you're saying. It's not the team's fault. It's not the players' fault. They're not causing it. But if the behavior is going to cease because the team gets punished, I can make a case for it. If that's really going to hurt them more than a stand closure and actually might go some way into stopping the behavior, I can make a case for the team actually being deducted points.
as Anaheim Ducks across the pond saying, I advocate any outcome that ends in the most Hun tears. Valid point. So, last thing I wanted to talk on the pod was the post-match brouhaha. I had to use that term. Friggin' love it. Brouhaha. With Todd Cantwell being a knobhead and pushing Kelmac before a whole bunch of handbags happened. Everyone getting involved. So, I want to know, what do you think, Shane, that Kelmac said to Cantwell to get him to react that way? I think Chris Sutton's thing was telling him that his TikToks were a bit shit, probably. But what do you think it was? Because in the comments, let us know, what did Kelmac say to Cantwell to get him to fire up and have a bit of a sook? Let us know.
It was definitely something that riled him, so it's gotta be something to do with his online social media profile, surely. Look, he might have bit back about the, drop ball as well. If you remember, there was a drop ball, that Calmac had. It should have been, uncontested, and Cantwell almost ran through the back of him. I don't know, maybe he told him to repair the rips in his socks. He's obviously gotten on the trend with actually cutting the holes in the socks because they're apparently too tight. Maybe he had a pop at him there, said it wasn't fashionable. I don't know, called out his hair. Could have been a number of things, but Cantwell's reaction was embarrassing. Absolute shit kicker, really. Just didn't do anything when he got on the pitch other than just try and throw his weight around, whatever weight he has on him, and then just decides to be, big man at full time, squaring up to a captain after they've left 2 points on the park. What I will say is that I was really happy to see the players. I think Taylor was involved, but Carter Vickers and Scales came across to basically step in and say, get the fuck, mate. Don't be getting involved with our captain like that. And I really like that stuff. I like the fact you stand up for your teammates and particularly your captain. So, he's an absolute shit kicker.
So comments here, Patrick saying, all Cantwell's done is give us our next team talk. Craigie, White is your team's dead, mate. I also said, did everyone see TikTok's hold me back Instagram post? He's a hard cunt. I'm convinced it was, now you know the best dancer, the amount of break dancing your wee Silverbird was doing. Andrew's saying they'd been sledging each other through the whole second half. Ripped your tights, most likely. I think at the end of the day,
just saw Gerald's comment, or Jared's comment, sorry.
Moral victory. Yeah, for me, I'm trying to figure out how do I want to run the risk of getting cancelled here. I think someone told him that his mascara was running. He was too busy crying. There we go. I'll keep it at that. That's probably the most basic one there. All right. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We've got a game next weekend, so there'll be Thursday's pod. We'll be previewing the weekend's match against St Mirren, I think it is, and then we will, be back next week with a pot noodle. Before we do that, usually we end with a final thought. Instead of that, we just want to send love and prayers and everything to Liam and his family. They're going through a bit of a hard time. So, yeah, just sending our love and best wishes in their direction. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. How.
How.